I am not the op. Just thought this one fit here. This is going to be a long one. And I am not going to use fake names because, the participants, they don't deserve anonymity. If they or their friends read this, it will be obvious who I am talking about. First, the cast of characters. Me 32M middle manager in a large Fortune 25 company. Fairly career-oriented now, got my party days out of my system when I was younger. Allison 31F my GF of 8 years, living together the last 4. She is an office manager for a large veterinary practice. Also, my soulmate, best friend, teammate, partner in crime and future wife, so I thought. Leslie 31F Allison's lifelong friend signed the 2nd grade. These girls are inseparable and do and share everything together. Dance classes when they were young, HS prom and homecoming. Allison was Leslie's Mo. Sorority sisters in college, more like sisters than friends. Leslie is a PA. Vicky 31F great friends with Allison and Leslie. Another sorority sister from college. Not as close as the other two, but nobody really is. But she is a constant companion to both Allison and Leslie. Vicky is an accountant for one of the big accounting firms. Brett 30M Leslie's recent husband after they dated for about 5 years. Decent enough guy, but I wouldn't call him a great friend. More like a very good acquaintance. Brett works for a large plumbing HVAC company that does sales and installation for primarily large industrial and commercial systems. A bit of a party boy who doesn't necessarily take his career all that seriously and a bit immature emo. Jacob 29M Vicky's LT boyfriend. They have been dating for about 4 years and living together for 1. Again, a nice enough fellow but more similar to Brett in personality than me. Jacob is a landman who contracts out to oil and gas companies. TBH, I'm not really sure what he does. I just know he travels a lot and makes pretty good money. Now the background. Allison and I met in college. She was everything I could ever want in a partner. Gorgeous, smart, funny, extrovert, responsible. We didn't start dating until we both graduated and found we would be working in the same city. We made it official fairly quickly. I purchased a house in my name only 4 years into our relationship and moved in together. We had a great relationship. Great communication. Fantastic. We started made good money together, and most recently with my salary plus bonus plus her salary we clear $350K per year, so we are very comfortable financially. Since it was my house, and I made a lot more money, I paid the mortgage and most of the bills and I had no problem with that. I even paid off her student loans and her car note. She saved most of her money and built up quite a healthy 401K, which I was fine with. Hell, we were going to be married soon, so it was a moot point, or so I thought. During our relationship, we hung out with Leslie, Brett and Vicky Jacob quite often. Dinners, bowling, pool halls, movie nights, backyard barbecues, skiing, lake getaways, etc. Early on we went clubbing quite a bit, but Allison and I grew tired of that scene, so we don't do that very much at all now. The other 2 couples still club and party quite a bit. Like I said, I loved hanging out with Leslie and Vicky, and the guys were okay, but I never really got close with either of them. They were very good friends with each other, though. But we were all friendly enough and got along great. Now on to the good stuff. Since we often do stuff as 3 couples, I was fine with the girls planning a 10-day trip to Cancun for the 6 of us. We were going to stay in a really nice high-end adults-only resort. Allison and I were really looking forward to the trip as we could both use the downtime, relaxation and alone time. Unbeknownst to Allison, I was also planning to propose to her on this trip, and I had a ring waiting to give to her in Mexico. The week before the trip, wouldn't you know it, we had a crisis at work. My company needed me to stay. As is the policy in my company, if you have prepaid plans that need to be cancelled last minute for critical business reasons, the company will reimburse you. So I got reimbursed for my flight and resort fee. While I was disappointed, I explained to Allison and she understood. Since she was really looking forward to going and spending time with her friends, I encouraged to go by herself and have a great time. I didn't tell her about the ring and figured I'd propose shortly after she returned. When the day came, I said goodbye and she took off for the 10-day trip. While she was there, I got a few obligatory texts and pics saying how much she missed me and wished I was there. Here's where the worm turns. On day 4 of the 10-day trip, I got a call from a very good friend of mine, David, saying he needed to talk to me. David is probably my closet friend and also works with Brett, and they are fairly good friends. Anyway, while in Mexico I guess Brett called David to ask about some work stuff, and the conversation eventually turned to how was the Cancun vacation going. Brett proceeded to tell David that the trip was fulfilling some of his wildest fantasies, that the 5 of them were engaging in all sorts of exploits including a group. The dumb Brett was stupid enough to document the activities and even sent some pic and videos to confirm his story, which David initially called. This is what David wanted to talk about. This next part is difficult for me to type since I have to relive some of the worst emotional pain I have ever felt. I met David, and he got right into it, telling me exactly what was going on in Cancun with the 5 of them. Like David, I also called, and thought he was with me until he said he has some proof that might be hard for me to see. I got super serious really quick and my stomach flip-flopped. He showed me his phone. While I won't get into all the sordid details, suffice it to say his story was confirmed and I was broken to my core. Among the stuff he showed me, there was several pictures of Allison getting spit roasted by Brett and Jacob, pics of her having, while eating Leslie's, and a short video of the 3 girls having a very enthusiastic. I was IDK. Devastated seems to light a word to describe my emotions. The crazy thing is, we had talked about FFM threesomes before and she always refused, saying she just wasn't into girls. She also knows one of my deepest fantasies was to watch her make love to another woman. She always laughed and said that was never going to happen. I decided then and there obviously that we were done. I asked David to send the pics and vids to me in case I needed to confront her with the proof. Over the next few days, I packed as much of her that I could into a bunch of boxes and stacked them in the living room. I had a locksmith rekey the locks on 4 doors into the house. And then just sat back and waited for her to return. After the trip, she was scheduled to come home late on a Monday night, landing like around 11 p.m. Since it was late, she told me not to worry about picking her up, she would Uber home. I just sat in the living room with a bourbon and waited. About 12:30 am, I heard her key wiggling unsuccessfully in the lock. After several attempts she rang the doorbell. There is a window right next to the front door and I opened that window a few inches. She asked WTF was going on and to let her in. I just said she was never stepping foot in my house ever again, we were through and to get the off my stoop. She was honestly dumbfounded, yelling, "Why am I doing this?" I said, "If you don't know you are a idiot on top of being and a liar." She got silent. She knew I knew. She started sobbing, begging me to let her in, saying let her explain, she just wants to talk, etc., etc., etc. I told her forget it, it's not happening and she's not coming in. Through her sobs, she asked me where was she supposed to go. I told her I left her keys in her car and D told her go back and live with her fuckbuddies, and I closed the window, blocked her number, turned on some music and sat down and just zoned out. About 10 minutes later I saw her car back out of the driveway. About 45 minutes after she left, I got a call from her older brother James, who lives in the same city and is fairly close to Allison. James is a great guy, a good friend and someone who I respect and enjoy being around. He told me Allison showed up on his doorstep crying hysterically and saying she fucked up. James really didn't get any of the details from Allison, but he let her in and told her she could stay as long as she needed James as a prince. I told James, yes, we broke up. No, it wasn't repairable and that I would tell him the story in detail some other time. When I said our relationship wasn't repairable, he immediately understood that to mean she cheated and said he was sorry. I also told James that there were about a dozen boxes filled with her that needed to be moved out of my house. He understood and said he would take care of it. True to his word, James and a friend showed up and took all the boxes. We chatted a bit. He said he didn't need any details but understood and agreed that cheating is impossible to come back from. Fast forward about 3 weeks. I haven't seen or talked to Allison or any of her friends since the night she left. Who should I get a text from but none other than Leslie? She asked me to meet her to talk. I told her I wasn't interested in anything she had to say. She begged and pleaded with me, said she just wanted to talk and she wasn't going to try to change my mind. On the off chance that I could get some of the why, I agreed to meet her for coffee. My conversation with Leslie was eye-opening to say the least. First, she told me how sorry she was and that what happened in Mexico was spontaneous and not planned. She said that the other couples had talked about swinging in the past, but had never done anything. Things just got out of hand and that Allison had implied that I would be okay with her participation. She proceeded to tell me Allison was not doing well. She quit her job because she just couldn't drag herself out of bed, had lost a ton of weight, she didn't have much to lose to begin with, isn't taking care of herself or her hygiene very well and has rarely left the house. I took it all in with some indifference. I basically told Leslie that those were Allison's problems, not mine, and Allison would have to deal with it. I told Leslie I don't necessarily hate Allison, but I just don't care about her or what happens to her any longer. She may as well be a stranger living in another country at this point. Leslie simply could not comprehend my indifference. She begged me to talk to Allison, to let her explain and give her some closure. I told Leslie I wasn't interested in any excuses, reasons, justifications, explanations, or anything else. I didn't owe her closure and wasn't particularly interested in helping her get over her guilt. But I did have some questions. I asked if that was the first time Allison cheated on me and she sheepishly said yes, with a guy. WTH? I asked her if she and Allison had had before and she lowered her eyes and said yes. Apparently, they have been enjoying each other's pussies on the regular since high school. My jaw absolutely hit the floor. I was in a stupor. I told Leslie about my fantasies about Allison and Leslie already knew all about them. She had even encouraged Allison to invite her into a with me, or just have with Allison while I watched. Leslie was turned on by the idea, but Allison refused. I can't fathom why. I also found out that this was not the first time the girls Allison, Leslie Vicky had engaged in a. They had not done it often, but definitely not the first time. Again, my heart just sunk. So these two losers bred Jacob got to share my fantasies with my girlfriend. I thanked Leslie for the talk, but told her that solidified in my MIND that I wanted nothing to do with Allison ever again and told her I would also be cutting off the other two couples for obvious reasons. Leslie left the conversation in tears. I sincerely felt nothing for Allison, and don't care where she winds up. But, still, it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. So 2 questions Redditors. AMTA for refusing to speak to Allison. And how do I get back into dating? I am not one for dating apps and Allison and I have been together for so long that I am out of the game. If you've read this far, thanks.